Okay, I've started the recording. So, yeah, how have you been finding the course so far? You can use the chat box to reply. Are you enjoying the course? Is it tough? Is it easy? Is it new? Any feedback? Okay, how many of you are here? My internet seems really slow today. Okay, 3 of you are there. So, Sneha, Sanvika, and Rita Shri. How are you finding the course? Feel free to use the chat box if you are unable to mute, but yeah, most of my sessions are, it's nice if we can have some interaction because that becomes more, this is more of a doubt solving session, problem solving session where there are a lot of discussions and it's not going to be only teaching. So it would be nice if everyone participates in the discussions. I'm going to wait for another 2 minutes before starting. I don't have great internet, so please let me know if the slides are not changing or this is not working. Alright, I'm going to begin. We are very few people here. Have the people who are here, have you attended the other tutorials as well, or is this your first tutorial for this week? Hello? Am I audible? You attended others too? Okay. Alright. Yeah, I'm not sure why there are very few people here. The first interaction session. Okay, cool. That's good. Let me try switching to another Wi-Fi, but nothing seems to be visible for me. Okay, I'm going to continue as long as you can hear me. You recently joined the course, you're on the first module. Okay. Yeah, that doesn't matter. It might be good to, though, still participate in the discussions. So I think just even you don't have to worry about being right or wrong. It's just about putting your input and seeing, you know, seeing whether your suggestions make any sense or not. Don't worry about being correct or incorrect. We're all just meant to have a discussion here, and I think we all learn from each other as well. So let's start. So I'm Chiti Arvind. I am a course TA for your Wildlife Ecology course. This is week 3. I'm a PhD student from IISA Tirupati, and I'm one of the 3 teaching assistants for this particular course in Wildlife Ecology. So I'm going to go to the first question that we'll be discussing. Oops, I think it switched twice. Oh no, what is happening? Okay, what's on the screen now? Do you see a question that says there are 2 populations of large mammals in a community? Is that the screen? You can just say yes or no. Alright, cool. So there are 2 populations of large mammals in a community. You have species A and then you have species B. Okay. Species A has members A1, A2, so on and so forth till A raised AN, and species B has individuals B1, B2, so on and so forth. So state which of the following pairs of interactions is the most appropriate choice. Okay, so you now for the first option you have B1 with B2 interspecific, A1 with A2 intraspecific, A1 with B2 interspecific, A1 with B1 intraspecific, A1 with B3 interspecific, B1 with B2 intraspecific, A1 with A2 with B3 interspecific, A1 with B1 intraspecific. So what do you think is the right option? All 4 of you, if you could maybe just put in an alphabet or just type in the word, it will be great. Okay, C, 2 options for C. What about the others? What do you feel? Okay, we have a few more people who have joined us. So yeah, there are 2 populations in this community. What is the right answer? What is the type of interaction that we are looking at within the species A and species B? This is dealing with interspecific and intraspecific interactions. So 3 people say interspecific. 3 people say option C is the correct answer. 1 person says B is the correct answer. What about the new ones who have joined in? What do you feel? Who do we have? Abhinav and Ranjit. Okay, C. Okay, yeah. So okay, Soumya has changed her answer. Okay, so yes, all of you are right. It's actually C is the correct answer, because when 2 different species interact with each other, it is known as an interspecific interaction between 2 different species, and within the same species, individuals within the same species have intraspecific interactions. So that's right. Let's go to question 2. Okay, alright. So describe the interaction shown in all these I'm not sure how that size got adjusted to that. Describe the interactions shown in these 4 figures and choose which class do they belong to. Did they belong to predation type of interaction, commensalism, mutualism, or parasitism? Feel free to unmute and discuss or type on the chat. Okay, I have a few answers coming in. We'll discuss each of the interactions as well, each of the images as well. I have a few options for mutualism. What about the rest? What do you feel? Since we're a very small group, I'm just going to wait for everyone to reply or have an answer. Okay, Ranjit says both the organisms are benefit, neither one is harmed. Okay. All right. So yes, indeed, the interaction that is showed in all the 4 images is of mutualism. Can someone tell me what the first figure is? The one on the top left, this one. What does this figure show? Or could you just type in all the figures, what they show? What are the organisms involved in it? The mutualistic interactions. Anyone has any idea? Okay, yes. Ranjit says and Rita Shri say lichen. Yes, correct. The first one is lichen, and it is an interaction Ranjit mentions between algae and fungi. Ranjit, would you like to discuss a little more about this? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, go ahead.
I can just tell you that
Sure.
algae provides the shelter and nutrition for the fungi,
Okay.
and the fungi provides the water and the light that is required for algae.
Okay, so yes, it is interaction. Thanks, Ranjit. This is an interaction between algae and fungi, and it is a mutualistic interaction. And yes, the fungus benefits from food produced by the algae because it is photosynthetic, and the algae provides benefits to the and the fungus provides some benefits to the algae as well. Okay, Abhinav says ants and aphids. Yes, that is correct. Abhinav, would you like to talk a little bit more about the ants and the aphids, their interaction? Sorry.
Ma'am?
Yeah, go ahead.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Ma'am, I think the ants rear the aphids, providing them shelter and food resources, and in return the aphids give the ants some sugary secretion. I don't have much idea about them.
Yeah, so that is correct. So yeah, you're right. The ants look after the aphids and protect them from any other enemies that are present in the environment, and the aphids provide the ants with nutritional food, which is sugar rich food. So that's why the ants are safeguarding the aphids mostly. So yeah, that is correct. Samya says clownfish and sea anemone. Samya, would you like to maybe elaborate a little bit more on the clownfish and sea anemone? That's correct. Soumya? You could even use the chat box. Anyone else can feel free to add on as well if you would like to describe the interaction between clownfish and sea anemone. Okay, yeah, sure. You can go ahead about flowers and bees. Go ahead. You can explain that if you want, Soumya. Would you like to explain about flowers and bees, the interaction between them? Right. So that was easy. Bees help the flowers in pollination and flowers provide them with nectar. That's correct. So it's a mutualistic interaction between the two. Does anyone else would like to add on the clownfish and sea anemone? If if not, then actually what happens is that the sea anemones or sea anemones are found stuck on attached to the surface of these coral reefs, and you find this clownfish in particular, this kind of fish uh, in close proximity to the sea anemones. So what sea anemones do is they usually have these kind of stinging cells called nematocysts, which they sting and try and capture prey. And this they don't trap these clownfish because the clownfish have a kind of secretion covering on their skin that prevents it from getting attacked from the sea anemones. So they are able to comfortably swim, and are protected and get a protective environment from potential predators in the sea anemone. And the sea anemones benefit from the clownfish because when the clownfish attract other fish, they are also a prey species for other fish. When they attract the presence of other fishes, they are able to get killed by the sea anemone. So the sea anemone is able to draw prey towards them, as well as if the clownfish is feeding on something, all the remnants of the clownfish food can be absorbed by the sea anemone. So it's a mutualistic interaction between these two species. Okay. So I hope that was clear. Let's move on to the next question. So previous studies have shown that various eucalyptus species can yield allelopathic chemicals which can be effective in suppressing understory vegetation. Okay. So allelopathy basically occurs when one plant species releases chemical compounds, and these chemical compounds can indirectly or directly through microbial decomposition affect another plant species. So, as mentioned earlier, it's an indirect or direct interaction whereby allelochemicals released by one organism influence the physiological process of other neighboring organisms. So, in this case with eucalyptus, what type of interaction is explained here? Is it plus minus, minus minus, plus minus? Oh, you have two options that say plus minus. Okay, yeah. So, what kind of interaction is this allelopathy in this case? Last option should be plus plus. So, D is no, it's not amensalism. What is amensalism? Ranjit says plus minus.
Ma'am, as uh, interaction can be negative or positive, however, we can say that it's a plus or minus, ma'am. Like if it can be plus and plus or minus and minus. Like I'm asking based on the question.
Yeah,
If
in the
the
case of
if the yeah.
eucalyptus, in the case of eucalyptus and understory plants, what is the kind of interaction out here?
Usually, eucalyptus doesn't allow other plants to grow under them.
Right.
So it has to be plus or minus.
Right. Yeah.
Gain for itself and loss for the other organisms.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there are like 3 options saying plus or minus, which is not supposed to be the case. But yeah. So basically, the eucalyptus does not allow any other species to grow near it. So if in any case you have also been to any eucalyptus plantations, you will see that the bottom of the eucalyptus plantation or the forest does not have anything growing underneath at all. You will only find eucalyptus leaves, and also eucalyptus roots are water drawing, and they go down pretty deep and they draw all the water and don't allow any other plant to also grow in its vicinity. So yeah, there is a positive response for the eucalyptus and a negative response for anything else growing in its vicinity. Abhinav, I actually will look up whether it falls under the category of amensalism or not, but I think amensalism is when one neither gets affected or harmed, right? If I'm not wrong. What is amensalism? Where one species causes harm to another without any cause or benefits to itself. So when it doesn't get any benefit out of here, but I'm guessing here the eucalyptus does get a benefit by not allowing other species to grow around it. So I'm not sure if this entirely qualifies as an amensalistic interaction. Alright, let's go to the next question. Plus zero interactions are termed as dash, and list a few examples of such kind of interactions. You can use the chat box to put your replies. Okay, we have one option in. Soumya says commensalism. Others, what do you feel? Yeah, that's a good example. Thanks, Sneha. Okay. So, what benefits do the birds get on buffaloes? And what do birds get by nesting on towers and posts? It would be nice to have a reason also.
Towers and posts provide safety and it feeds on the ticks and the lice is what organisms are there over the surface of the buffalo
Mm-hmm.
has that fibers from its tail are using
Okay.
preparation.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, that is correct. And also, birds need not always be sitting on the buffaloes or cattle. There is another thing that happens. Any guesses as to what that could be? Hello, I don't know. My internet seems to be bad. Am I back? Okay, I see someone using the chat box. If a bird is feeding on ticks present on buffalo, isn't both getting benefited? Yeah, so actually, this is the oxpecker and cattle example. I don't know if I'm back. Uh, am I audible? Audio is breaking up. Yeah, my
It's
internet.
breaking up, ma'am. Yeah.
Is it okay now? Am I back?
In patches, ma'am.
No?
In patches. Now you are okay, ma'am.
Okay. Just let me know if my audio is going because I'm having some fluctuating network. I just switched to another one. Let's hope this works. Okay. So, Rita Shri, yeah. So, actually, so this is a classic example with oxpecker and ox in Africa. And so, cattle, like let's say cattle egret, okay? Cattle egrets sit on cows or cattle and buffaloes, but they're not really feeding on parasites present on the cattle. What are they actually doing? Can anyone guess? How are they benefiting? How is a cattle egret benefiting? Any guesses? I'm sure all of you have seen cattle egrets sitting on cows on the road in some field.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
can you just repeat the question?
So the birds, like for example, the association between cattle egret and buffaloes or cattle is not mutualistic because cattle egrets are not feeding on organisms or ticks or parasites on the cattle itself. What is it actually doing and how is it benefiting?
Actually, usually in cattle egrets case, the cattle and the cows and whatever it is, when it walks, the hoofs, it loses the soil and all the organisms inside the soil, it comes out, and that is fed upon by the cattle egret. So,
Right.
I think
Okay.
it's aeration of the soil also happens, as well as the egret is also cattle egret is also getting fed, but I don't know
Right. Yeah.
what is called.
Yeah, so basically what happens is that, yeah, Lakshmi, you're right. So it's these large animals, when they move in the fields, they disturb the grass and they disturb the insects that are present in this area. And as they walk, there are a lot of insects that are flying around and moving around because of the large mammal movements. So this is the prey for the cattle egret. So the cattle egret is easily able to catch prey while these large mammals are moving around, causing about a disturbance. So that's how the cattle egret benefits from staying close to buffaloes. And Soumya has another example talking about Echinius, I guess, Echinius and shark, and Echinius attached to ventral portion of the shark, and they are transported as well as it gets food from the remains of the shark as the shark is feeding on different prey items. The shark doesn't really get benefit from this association with this Echinus, I guess. Echinix. I'm looking for the common name. It's called the shark sucker fish. Yeah, it has these suckers that allow it to attach to the. Let me show you a image of this. So this is what the animal looks like, and it has the suckers on the ventral surface or dorsal surface, sorry, that helps it to attach to the shark itself. So yeah, cool.
Excuse me, ma'am. Sorry for digressing.
Yeah.
Here I have patchy network as well as because
Okay.
it's start. I think it's gonna rain here.
Okay.
So you know when you upload your videos into your
I upload it on the
YouTube,
same
ma'am,
day
like,
itself mostly. Yeah.
okay, ma'am. Because
Yeah.
anytime I can lose the electricity
Yeah,
here.
yeah, no
So
problem.
it's just that.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay,
You
ma'am.
can stay
Yesterday
on
also,
till.
actually yesterday session also I missed out due to lack of electricity.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know who took yesterday, and I don't know where they uploaded. So at
Yeah,
least I know that you are taking. Yeah.
yeah.
May I know who takes on Monday, ma'am? Like, do
So
you have any idea?
it's Abdul Shakur who takes on Monday, and Geetika Agarwal takes on Friday, and I take on Tuesday.
Okay. Okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we
Because
were.
do you
Yeah.
know? Can you just, if you have any idea, can you just share their links here so that I can
It should be on
catch
the
their
it
classes?
should be on the YouTube channel, their YouTube channel. So if you just Google their name with the course code, it should appear.
Okay, ma'am. Just
Yeah.
type out the names, ma'am, because I'm actually doing cooking, ma'am, so I'm not able to
Yeah.
remember the names.
Shakur and Geetika Agarwal. I think this is the
Okay,
spelling
ma'am.
or
Thank
close
you.
to that. So yeah, you can just
Okay.
type Wildlife
Yeah.
Ecology and find it.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so yes, plus zero interactions are commensalistic interactions, and I think all of you have given examples of this as well, so that's great. So now list 3 types of antagonistic relationships in the animal world and provide examples of the same. So what are the types of antagonistic interactions? Would you use the chat box to type in?
Parasites.
Okay, parasitism.
Parasitism.
Any other ideas for antagonistic relationships? There are 3 of them. Rajshri says predation. Okay, that is correct. Competition, right? Okay, competition, sure, but competition is a very broad term. Interactions harming at least one participant. Okay, so I'm going to pull up some images. Hopefully that should appear. Yeah. So does this help? Herbivores. Okay, yes. So herbivory, parasitism, and predation. So do you know the associations in these 3 images that are shown? Would someone like to discuss?
Second one is the predation, where the bear is the predator and the fish is the prey.
Okay.
And herbivory, third one is herbivory, where the larva or the larva of a butterfly or something
Caterpillar,
is
yeah.
completely the caterpillar of the butterfly or anything is completely dependent on the leaves, and it completely eats off the whole leaf.
Okay.
That is a loss. That is a loss for the plants, but it is a gain for the caterpillar.
Okay.
And first one is the parasitism, where the parasitic climbers or creepers, they not only depend on the base tree for support, but it also slowly grows itself strong and strangulates, almost like a kind of like a strangulates the base structure, and hence the tree which forms the support slowly dies out while it becomes strong, and it continues to live on.
Right. So what's actually happening with the parasitism? So it's it's drawing its nutrients from the host tree and it's actually growing around it. So if you come a couple of years later, uh, plus minus, yes, it will be a plus minus interaction where the other one is getting harmed and one of them benefits. Yeah.
A classic example is sandalwood, man, for parasitism.
Sandalwood, no, sandalwood is not parasitic.
No, ma'am. Actually, it grows around. It's a kind of a weak tree or something which needs a support.
Right.
It grows around a basic tree,
Okay.
and it becomes thicker and thicker, and the base tree becomes small and thinner and thinner, and slowly it. Because I have seen it in while I was doing my graduation in
Okay.
Bangalore. So
I had no idea sandalwood. Is it parasitic?
I don't know about the parasitism, but I saw that it was like kind of, it looked like it was strangulating the base tree or something because it itself can't stand on its own.
I
It
see.
needs a support.
I
So
see.
it was growing around a tree.
I see.
And
Okay.
so I don't know about it parasitic or not, but because I can Google it, but just wanted to share an anecdote.
Yeah, that's interesting. I just googled it and it says sandalwood tree is considered as a partial root parasite because it completes its nutritional requirement from other plants. Oh, the roots are modified in the form of hostoria, which is to function to penetrate host plants and take nutrients from them. Okay, I didn't know that. Yeah, thanks, Lakshmi, for the. Yeah, Ranjit
It's just
also
that
says
the
sandal
3
is
years
a
of
root
BSc
parasite.
degree which I taught,
Right.
the the base tree or whatever the tree it was growing next to,
Right.
it became thinner and thinner and thinner, and by the time I graduated and came back for the I came back for the
Graduation.
alumni
Right.
alumni meeting on the 4th year, alumni meet on the next year. So it was like completely gone. The tree completely withered off. But this sandalwood was very strong and healthy, and it had gained a lot of bulk,
I
so,
see.
And that's why actually our college was actually have police protection and all, because it's very dangerous to grow
Right.
sandalwood trees, and it was grown by government.
Right.
So there, the person who was taking care of those gardener, he was like saying that this is actually a parasite which not allows any other tree to grow again around it. And it also fogs all the limelight, all the sunlight,
Sunlight, yeah.
So it's like its leaves takes all the sunlight and slowly smooth, like slow poison.
I see.
Smothers and strangulates the base tree.
Right. Okay, so yeah, that's interesting. So yeah, it's a semi-parasitic plant. That's yeah, good to know. Good to know. Thanks. Okay, so let me just go on to the next question. So yeah, these are the three types of antagonistic relationships. So can someone explain this figure in detail and what is actually happening here? Feel free to explain in your own words. There are two sets of conditions that are drawn out here. One is the condition AD and one is denoted by FID. They stand for something. What do you think is happening? You need not guess exactly what these terms mean, but what is shown, what is depicted in this image out here? You can explain it in your own words. Is the image not clear? Or is it looking too complicated? Okay, so let me make this a little bit simpler. So there is a case where a person is moving towards a bird at a distance AD, but when the person moves at a distance of FID to the bird moves away. Okay, yes,
Ma'am,
correct.
is
One,
this about yeah, is this about
yeah,
the survey distance where the
yeah,
I vaguely
Abhinav,
remember, I don't know
yeah,
exact
Abhinav has got it.
yeah,
Yeah,
they,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, Abhinav
yeah.
says flight initiation distance, that is
Yes,
absolutely
yeah,
right.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
It was like how the urban birds have adjusted to the urban life, where the pigeons and the crows and everything, they allow the humans to
right,
walk very near to them and they don't take off. But
right.
it is not seen so in semi-urban areas and
Yeah,
the forest birds. Forest birds being so sensitive that even our whispering or our footsteps might frighten them, they will fly off. And the semi-urban birds fall somewhere between these two. They allow a little bit of interaction at some distance, but then in a safe manner they fly away. So is this about that, ma'am?
yeah, Abhinav has already mentioned flight initiation distance, so that's correct. Abhinav, would you like to maybe add something more on this?
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Uh, Ma'am, I think that the bird or any organism would tolerate the presence, like as depicted here, the presence of a human or presence of another being. And the flight initiation distance means the limit after which it flies or it flies off.
Yeah. Yeah, that is right. And it's the minimum distance at which an organism will allow a human to approach without you flying away. And as Samya says, the man is a longer distance away from the bird. It's actually known as attentive distance. So this is the point where which a bird is alert of the presence of a human being, and at as the human being moves a little closer, you will see that the bird moves away. So these are studies that I have actually a video. Maybe we can just look at that video and discuss after that. mm, I don't know why it's not coming. Is it coming? Yeah, the internet is extremely slow even at my end for some reason. Is there anything on the screen?
No, ma'am. Blank white.
Oh god. Let me just stop sharing and try again. Really, really poor internet. Is the screen visible? No? Yes? So, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, but the
Nothing is
presentation is
visible?
not there.
Oh god, okay. Let's see. Please work. Else, let me just find the link and share it with you. All of you can watch this video as well. That might just be easier. Okay, is anything visible now? It seems to have appeared on my screen. Is it working? Alright. I'm trying to share this video with you also. It's not playing at my end. I don't know, was this visible or not? Somebody will have to speak because I don't see anything in the chat. I don't know if this internet is unstable. I don't know if you can hear me. Okay. Yes, no?
We can hear you, ma'am.
Okay, you can hear me. Were you able to see the video or not? I'm just... Yes, no?
Yes, ma'am, it was visible, but there was some interruption. But it
Right,
was
right.
visible.
Okay. Yeah, so we can anyway, I will, the link will be visible on the PowerPoint that I share, and I seem to be unable to find the YouTube link right now. I'll just put it in towards the end of the class. That's okay. Um, so basically, this is along the lines of what Lakshmi was very comprehensively discussing earlier. So your research involves looking at the flight initiation distance in squirrels in urban and forested areas. And what are your expectations for the study, and why do you expect this? So feel free to unmute or just use the chat box. What are your expectations if you're studying flight initiation distance of squirrels in urban and forested areas? What are your expectations for the same? What do you think will be different with the animals in the forested areas and versus the non-forested areas? Hello? Anyone? Any ideas? Okay, Abhinav says in urban conditions, FID will be lesser than forested areas. Okay, why is that so, Abhinav?
Ma'am, in urban situations, the squirrels might be more familiarized with human presence and human individuals
Okay.
than in forested patches.
Okay.
So I think they will be much more tolerant to humans in an urban landscape than in a forest landscape.
Right. Yeah. So
That's just my assumption.
Sure. And why do you think, if you're talking about the same species, why do you think there are squirrels in urban landscapes? Why do you see squirrels in
Ma'am,
urban landscapes? Yeah.
They might rely on other they might rely on food resources,
Right.
like they might scavenge a bit.
Right. Yeah, you're right. You're correct. You're correct. They do have alternate food resources that are quite easily available. Um, Rajshri says squirrels in urban areas will be less afraid of humans. Yes, that's right. And you might have seen that a lot of people are feeding squirrels, even pigeons, which is not at all a great idea. But there is a term for this. So what would you call these animals that are very used to being around humans? What is that term that is used? Does anyone have any idea? Meanwhile, let me just post the link of the video. Yes, so Abhinav says habituation. That's absolutely correct. Not domestication. Domestication is a totally different concept where humans have taken animals from the wild and bred them over several, like, generations and several hundreds of years in close proximity for some benefit to themselves. So that is domestication, but habituation is when an organism gets habituated to something that is around them. So pigeons and other urban birds are very habituated to human presence, and they don't get scared when we approach to a very very close distance as well. Yeah, so this is the link to the video that I was trying to show you all. You will find it in the lecture notes as well. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. So hope you can see the screen. Okay, so cane toads are another amphibian that fatten up through dash. So this is a particular action. Okay, now a description to the action is that the tadpoles of cane toads, when given a choice between cane toads and similar looking eggs of another frog species, they actually prefer to dine on their own kind. In this case, dash helps the tadpoles grow up big and strong and cuts down on future competition. So what is the term referred to in this particular type of interaction? What are we talking about here? Okay. Does anyone have any other ideas as to what this could be? Okay, so if you read the feeding or predation by tadpoles over insects on what, Ranjit? What are they feeding on? Insects. No, actually it's not insects. So it's written in the second sentence. If you read out here, it's written that the tadpoles of cane toads, when given a choice between cane toad eggs and similar looking eggs of another frog species, they prefer to dine on their own kind. So actually out here, Rajeshri is correct. This term is called cannibalism. Rajeshri, would you like to explain a little bit more on this? Or anyone, would you like to explain what is cannibalism? Anyone? No? Cannibalism? Feeding on the same species. Yes, thanks, Neha. So, feeding on the same species or eating their own kind is known as cannibalism, and in some cases, cannibalism can be beneficial. And out here, in this case, when tadpoles, that are the next stage of the frog eggs, when they feed on frog eggs from their own species, they so eggs are highly nutritious in nature, and yeah, there are a lot of organisms, as Ranjit mentions, that do eat their offsprings after birth, because it's a form of high nutrition. And in the case out here given with the cane toads, what happens is that they reduce competition for resources later on, because yeah, the eggs are definitely not going to reach maturity if they are going to be consumed like this. Okay. So here in the figure given alongside, you see a plant. Where is it native to, and how does it affect the ecosystem? So I'm sure all of you have seen this plant somewhere or the other. Okay, Abhinav says lantana from Africa. What else? What do other people think? Okay, actually says lantana. Anyone else? Have you not seen the species of this flowering species? America? Which America? North America, South America, Central America? Rajshri says it's an invasive species. Okay, so yes, indeed it is Lantana camara. Lantana camara has been found in several different countries, and it is native to Central and South America. So these are shrubby like plants, but can grow till a much greater height in the forest. And why this became so popular is because of its flowers. So these flowers are quite pretty. They come in various different colors and combinations, and people are highly attracted and like these flowers, right? Because it's a good what do you say, gardening, good for your, good to look at in your garden. But as Rajshri said, it's a highly invasive species. What do you mean by invasive species? Would you like to elaborate a little bit on this? Anyone? It's from South and Central America, not Africa. Lantana camara. It tends to spread very quickly. Okay, what do you mean by invasive species? So that is one of the factors. Yes, it spreads very quickly. Okay, they propagate in large numbers in short time. They don't allow other species to grow. Yeah, they are quite fast growing. They are dispersed by a number of plants and animals. So that was good. Um, can what else? It is non-native to the area, propagates very easily and harms other species. Okay, yes. So what happened is that they came with this non-native species from outside and they grew it in forest, and these spread into the forest and they started taking over the forest. So it takes away a lot of nutrients from the soil. It proliferates really rapidly, and in some areas you find, as I mentioned, if you have heard of this BRT forest in Karnataka, you find lantana invasions still like couple of meters high, like almost as high as trees. And there have been like a lot of management solutions, and they are trying to come up with solutions to manage lantana spread in these forests. So yes, it is an invasive species that is not at all beneficial for the ecosystem, but it does host a number of plants and insects, and yeah, that's why it is thriving, because the flowers of lantana camara have a lot of nectar in it. So, and they also, once the flowers fruit, they have these berry like things that are fed on by a lot of birds. So it gets dispersed to large areas as well. Okay, so that is about invasive species. So comment on the figure that is given below, and what is the purpose of such a thing. Does anyone know what this picture is? Okay, it's a society. What is this? What organism is this? What insect species is this? Any guesses? Correct. Thanks, Ranjit. This is a termite species. It's not an ant. It is indeed a termite species, and but you are right, Rajshri. There is a division of labor in the species, and it is also a, somebody mentioned society. It is a society. It is a social species. Can anyone take a guess as to what is the social structure in termites? I'm sure all of you have seen termites in the wood, probably in your house also, or in termite mounds. If you have seen these images of these large mud shaped structures coming out from the ground. Of course, under the ground also it's a very intense network, but over the ground also you have these structures, mud structures in these termite mounds. Yeah, any ideas as to what the division of labor is in this species? So you can look at the image and also explain. What are the classes? It's similar to bees, a bee structure. Okay, there is a division of labor. What do you see out here? What do you see in the image? So the insects in these in these termite species are divided into different castes. That is called the division of labor out here. Yes, indeed, Rajeshri, you are correct. They are workers, soldiers. You have the king and the queen. So what is the function of the king and the queen? Anybody, would you know what is the function of having a king and a queen? Breeding, correct. So reproduction is the fertile, correct. Yes, they are they are the primary reproductives of the society. They are involved in a lot of important reproduction um, roles. They form the colonies and lay eggs. They are responsible for the construction of the nests as well. So yes, they are the primary reproductives in the colony. So what about the workers and the soldiers? Are they reproductively active? Yes or no? What do you think? No. No. Okay. Ajay says, I think yes. Okay. No. So actually, they are not reproductively active, and they also don't have any wings, right? So they can't really fly around. They can be male and female, and workers are dimorphic of size. So you have larger ones are known as the soldiers, and the smaller ones are, well, you have larger soldiers and workers and also smaller soldiers and workers both. So the purpose of a worker is they collect food, they help in repairing and constructing the nest, and they are the ones who form the help in forming the structure. And as the name suggests, what do you think the soldiers do? Any guesses? What could soldiers do? Give protection. Yes, that is correct. They give protection, and they defend the colonies. So they are involved in using these uh, different mandibular structures. So in the first one, you can see nasuit worker, I think. Can't even see very clearly. Yeah, the nasuit soldier, and then you have the mandibulate soldier. So both of their heads are modified into different structures, and the nasuit nasuit um, soldiers, they secrete a kind of substance that is anti predatory in nature, and the mandibular soldiers just use their heavy scissor like mandals to attack and behead any other organism that is predating upon them. What is the difference in winged and non-winged king and queen? So out here, basically, you have a reproductive queen, that is you have the primary queen, and then you have the winged reproductive, and then a secondary queen. So in the case that the primary queen uh, dies by any chance, you have a secondary queen who comes into play. And winged reproductive, I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure they are another um, caste which can substitute as the king or the queen when, in the case, the king or the queen dies. So yeah, so you have substitutes in the case of loss of any of the primary reproductives. Alright, so I hope this social kind of societal structure is clear to everybody. Let's go to the next question. So, give me an idea of what trade-offs mean and explain this graph with an example. So, would anyone like to explain the graph given alongside? It's very simple. Any ideas? Would someone like to explain this graph? It's very easy. It's shown right out there. Anyone? Don't worry about being right or wrong. It's exactly as what is shown out here. Is this something that nobody has seen before? Could I have some responses? Thumbs up, thumbs down.
Ma'am,
Yes, Abhinav.
the lecture.
Sorry.
One was the lecture.
Oh, you have not seen the lecture?
Just seen in the lecture video.
Okay.
So it shows the relation between the cost or benefit an animal is getting
Yeah.
while it's maintaining a territory of a certain size.
Okay. Yeah. Correct.
So from the graph, we can understand that there is an optimum territory size where where the animal can maintain this much size of a territory
Mm-hmm.
and can enjoy the benefits gain more than the cost it is having while defending or maintaining that territory.
Okay.
So the benefits are greater than the cost it takes the animal to maintain the territory.
Right. Okay. Excellent. Yeah, that makes sense. Right. Thanks for the explanation, Abhinav. Is this clear to everyone? Could I have a thumbs up if yes, a thumbs down if this still isn't clear? It's okay because I will explain this further. Could I just have a sense of whether people have understood this concept or not? Yes, no. Okay, thanks, Rajshri. Somewhat okay, yeah. Okay, so I will also explain this. So Abhinav explained this very well actually. So you have two things that are taken into account here. On the x-axis you have territory size, and on the y-axis you have cost or benefit, right? And let's take an example of I don't know, any animal. Let's take an example of a tiger, for example. A tiger is territorial in nature and it needs to defend a certain territory, right? And it needs to defend a certain territory because so that it can acquire food in that territory, correct? So now in territory maintenance there can be costs and benefits. So benefits can be gained in the amount of prey it can capture in that within its territory, and the costs are, it takes much larger energy and effort to maintain a much larger territory, right? So if you see, the dashed line shows territory gain, so benefit gained. So as territory size increases, the benefit gain also increases, because larger territory means larger number of prey it can hold. But the cost of defense is the amount of energy taken by the animal to defend its territory keeps on increasing as the territories get larger, right? Because it's very difficult for for a territorial organism to hold or maintain a larger territory, right? So there is an optimum balance that is reached where the benefits are much higher and the costs are much lower. And out here you have the optimum territory size. So this is a trade-off between benefit gained and costs incurred, right? So there is an optimal size. So if a tiger maintains a territory of this optimal size, it is likely to gain the highest number of benefits in this case. Does this make no sense? Does this make sense rather? Yes, no, please respond. Okay, cool, thanks. So it might be good to look up the optimal foraging theory. Might be good to look up this concept as well. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. So here you have 3 types of competition, okay, and these competitions are denoted by different types of interaction, and they can be divided into apparent, interference, and exploitative competition. So out here C1 and C2 are the competitors, R is the resource, and P is the prey. So would someone like to explain these? Oh sorry, P is the predator. Has anyone heard of these kinds of competitions before? Would someone like to explain? You can pick anyone and explain. No? Nobody would like to explain? Is this all new? Feel free to use the chat
Yes, ma'am.
box. Is it new?
Ma'am, apparent competition.
Okay.
Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Apparent competition is a type of competition wherein two different species of prey compete for survival from same predator.
Okay. Sure. And how does one competitor affect the other competitor?
Once again. Thank you for joining the session.
How does one competitor affect the other competitor?
Yeah. So I hope you have.
What's happening? In the background. Okay, so I think that was Shreyansh talking earlier about apparent competition. So yes, you have 2 competitors and 1 predator. So how does one competitor affect the other competitor in this case? So let me also tell you that interference competition and exploitative competitions are known as true competitions, whereas apparent competition is not known as a true competition. So what's actually happening in this apparent competition? So out here both the competitors have the same predator, right? And what happens in this case is that if the population of one competitor grows a lot, it attracts more number of more number of predators, and then the presence of more predators indirectly affects the survival of competitor 2, right? So even though competitor 2 is not exploding in its population, competitor 1's explosion in population is attracting more of the predators, and so an increase in prey, that which is competitor 1, can affect the survival of competitor 2 because of prey attraction, right? And the same way, if one of the prey species increases more or decreases, it is going to the prey is going to shift, the predator is going to shift in acquiring the other prey, right? So yeah, let's move on to the next type of competition, which is interference competition. What do you think about interference competition? Does anyone have any ideas or any examples? So this is an interaction between individuals, right? So this is within the same species. Interference competition can be taken when one individual is uh, um, hampering the access of another individual to acquire certain resources, right? So a popular example is of these male gorillas, where they use aggression to the dominant male uses different forms of aggression to prevent other gorillas from acquiring any form of food, and this is also known as an intra-specific type of interaction. Okay. Now when we are talking about exploitative competition, so what happens is that both organisms can easily get access to the food, but they have a competition to that particular kind of resource, right? So the resource might be less, they are competing for that resource, and then consumption of that resource by one competitor will decrease the availability of that resource to another competitor, right? And this is also a result of competitive exclusion, right? I'm not sure if you have heard of this, but we can discuss more. I hope these three forms of competition are clear to everyone. Does anyone have any doubts? Yes, no? All okay? All understood? Okay, alright. Let's go on to the next slide. So, what is best described in the figure given alongside is to show commensalism, invasion, cooperation, or competition. So, in the first panel, you have a yellow bird species that is distributed all alongside, and then in the second panel, you have this red bird species that is coming along, and in the third bird panel, you see that these red bird species are there along with the yellow bird species. So, what is actually happening here? Okay, invasion, but this is the last stage. So, the yellow birds are still present around. Okay, one guess for invasion, one guess for competition. What about the others? What do you think about this? Any other guesses? Okay, a lot of people are saying cooperation. Okay. Yeah. All this Rajshri is mentioning for all the three panels, but no, this is like a series. It's happening in a series. So it's actually a form of competition that's happening out here, and it's. I'm not sure if you have come across this term, but it's known as the competitive exclusion principle or the Gauss's law. Would someone like to explain this further?
Hi, ma'am.
Yeah, Gabinav, go ahead.
Ma'am, in the first case, the area is totally occupied by the yellow birds.
Right.
So they are having the option to choose any surface to feed on, or they are having a wide niche over there.
Right. Correct.
In the second case, the red birds came and they started feeding also. So there arises competition between the red and yellow birds.
Right.
So in the third case, the yellow birds they they changed to a new niche, or they occupied a narrower niche, in which some of the birds went on top of the canopy for the insects, and some went into the grass,
Mm-hmm.
and the red birds set into the tree parks
Right.
mainly for the insects. So I think there is niche partitioning in play.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, that's a very good point. Uh, does everybody agree to what Abhinav has said? Does anyone have anything more to add? Does everyone understand what is niche partitioning and occupying a niche out here in this with this example? Does everyone understand what is a niche and niche partitioning? Can I get a yes or a no?
Yes, ma'am. We do that.
Okay. Yeah, thanks Neha. So as Abhinav, everybody agrees with Abhinav that there is niche partitioning happening out here? Yes, no, not sure. Okay, we need to be a little more interactive in these sessions. They are not going to be like another lecture series. You already have lectures that happen um, in as a part of your course content. So yeah, thanks Abhinav for the explanation. And you are having niche partitioning that happens out here. You are seeing that the yellow birds do get displaced from the middle part of the forest strata, and they move to the upper canopy and the lower grass, while the red birds seem to be establishing themselves on the barks of the trees. So this is just an example of the competitive exclusion principle, or also known as the Gauss's law. Alright, so what does the figure alongside denote, and how is this behavior helpful? You can use the chat box. you will see birds coming together and moving in the same direction. This is you might have seen videos of hordes of fish coming together. Does anyone have an idea of what this is called? If you also are not sure, please let me know. Has anyone seen this kind of behavior on the internet or any television broadcast where groups of fish are moving together? No? Okay. Right. So yeah, so it's really important to let me know if you have seen or not seen such a behavior so that I can explain it further. So yeah, thanks, Soumya. Yes, it is an aquatic ecosystem, but out here, all these fishes are moving together in a particular direction. So as you can see out here, they form like this funnel kind of structure, and yes, thanks, Abhinav. So this is known as schooling in fish, and it has anti-predatory benefits. Yes, Ranjit, it is a group-based behavior that has a benefit in the form of an anti-predatory benefit. So they are able to move in large groups and um, confuse predatory species, because when a predator attacks or chooses to attack, this entire horde of fish move together and in different directions, so that it can form a very uh, confusing target for the prey to focus on one particular predator to focus on one particular prey item. So yes, this is known as fish schooling, especially when they move together in one direction. Okay, so what are the trade-offs in the interactions that are shown out here, and comment on the sociality of the species? Do you all know what the species is? The species in this diagram shown on the right. What is this? What animal is this? It's found in India. Any more guesses? Okay. Okay. Alright, so some of you do know that these are known as dholes or wild dogs. They are found in peninsular India, and they are quite common. And what is the kind of interaction that you see going on out here? What is shown in this image? Okay, predation. And what kind of activity is happening out here? Okay, sharing food. Attack with team cooperation. Yes, that's what I'm getting at. They are group dwelling species that are highly social. They are highly social mammals. They work in packs. And so, what are the benefits of living together? In this case, they are not solitary. They don't live like solitary hunters, like for example tigers or leopards, matter of fact. Pack hunting, attack with team cooperation. Yes, so they strategize in a team on how to bring down a prey. Here they have, I don't know if you can see what they have killed. Can you see what they have killed out here? So if yes, it's a deer, it's a cheetal or spotted deer, and this pack of dholes have successfully hunted and managed to bring down a deer. So if you can see that the deer seems to be a mid-sized deer and it is larger than one dhole itself, so they do need to hunt in larger groups to bring down such larger prey, and when they hunt together they are able to maximize their chances of bringing food. And they also have several members in their family, so the trade-off is that you bring down a large prey but you don't get access to the entire resource. There is some amount of sharing that is involved, right? So that are some of the costs and benefits to this group living species. Okay, so evolutionary strategy that favors the reproductive success of an organism's relatives, even when at the cost of the organism's own survival and reproduction, is known as gene selection, relatedness, king selection, or favoritism. You can choose the options A, B, C, or D. Okay, I think all of you have an idea of what the answer is. Yes, so it's actually known as skin selection, where reproductive success of a closely related animal is favored. So this brings to the point of altruism, where basically what happens is that it's favored by natural selection when RB is greater than C. So R is known as the reproductive success, B is the number of offspring or benefits that an organism has, and C is the risk that the organism takes by not being able to reproduce. So here we have an example of a bird known as the fairy wren, and a female fairy wren bird chooses to remain a helper in her natal nest and help her mother feeding more offspring. Here the relatedness between the mother, parent and daughter is 0.5. B is equal to 2, which is a number of offspring that the mother is able to raise in the presence of the helper, and C is equal to 0.8 is a risk that the helper incurred by not being able to produce her own offspring. So in this particular case, with given these particular details, could you tell me whether altruism is favored or not? Okay. I'm going to wait in for more people to reply. It's a very simple equation, right? What are the answers that you're getting? What is greater than what? What is RB here? Okay, so your answers, yeah, thanks. Thanks, Abhyarthana and Karan, and Prashanta and Soumya. Yes, so 1 is greater than 0.8, and so in this particular case, altruism is favored. So I hope all of you have become comfortable with this. And what exactly is this known as? This particular concept is known as a particular rule. What is the name of this rule? No, unfortunately, it's not sociality. how is C 0.8? It's just an arbitrary calculation based on some particular components of risk. So, by not being able to produce her own offspring, she incurs a risk of 0.8. But if the risk is greater, then probably altruism is not favored, right? Okay, so everyone has got it right. It is known as the altruism rule. What does C stand for? I think it is cost, if I'm not mistaken. Does anyone? Yeah. Rajshri also says C is cost. Okay. Alright, so let's go into this last part. So, does anyone know what is an ethogram? Yes, no, we need to have answers. So, can anyone tell me what is an ethogram? If you don't know, please also mention that you don't know. Okay. Documenting behaviors of an animal, measuring animal behavior, study of animal behavior. Okay. Okay. So, all of you do have an idea what an ethogram is. Great. Thanks. So now, if you were to make an ethogram to study the feeding behavior of this species that is shown here, what are the important data points would you collect? Feel free to, could you tell me what is this animal? Have you seen it? Is it found around? Have you seen it around? Yes. It's a deer. To be more specific, it is a spotted deer known as a cheetal. And so if you were to study the behavior of this spotted deer, okay, what are the correlates you would use? So imagine you are a field biologist, you are walking around in the forest and studying behavior of the cheetal in the forest, so, or in the grassland. What are the variables that you will be collecting data for? You can feel free to use the chat box. Don't worry about being right or wrong. What are the most important variables that you will be looking at? So in an ideal case, your ethogram will be a sheet with a number of variables that you will be collecting data for. Okay, food behavior. Sure. What it's eating. What else? Mating behavior. Okay. What else? Time spent for lookout. Okay, good one. Yes. Resting behavior. Okay. There's no right and wrong, and you can add, delete whatever variables that you want depending on what aspects you are also studying. So yeah, just keep the ideas coming in. Grooming. Okay. What else? Okay, so now most of you have listed a lot of different types of behavior, right? But what are the common data points that you will be collecting across all these behavior types? Identifiable acts. Okay. What are like common components that will have to go in your ethogram? They are very important. What are the important parts of making this data sheet? What goes in here when you are observing? Okay, bushes, fecal matter, feeding time, patterns. Okay, sure. These are all what you will infer from the data you have collected. But how will you be taking this data? What are the crucial things that you will note down? Imagine you are standing with a notebook in the forest. What is the first thing that you will write? You are observing, you have come into a forested patch, you are looking, you are supposed to start your study. What is the first thing? Size, is male or female predator activity time. Okay, Prashanta, you're a little bit close, but what is the first thing you will note down? First few things that you will note down in your data sheet. So, okay, sure. So, fine, you note down the species. What else? What else? Yes, correct, Sneha. Thank you. Date, and time. That's the first thing that you will note down. You have to note down the date and the time. Yes, correct, Prashanta. You have to note down the weather. And what is the other point? Good. All of you are thinking. Location, correct. Excellent. So you have to get a GPS to know the location, and it's great if you're able to classify the habitat, whether it's grassland, whether it's forest. Wind, yes, wind is another important factor that you could note down. You can note down also temperature. So yeah, so good, all of you have started thinking a little bit further. You have to note down all these abiotic factors and the habitat and the location. And once you have an idea of this, you start noting down your behavioral correlates, right? And then you actually look at the time spent in the organism doing these different kinds of behaviors. So one way is to actually be present and note it down. But what do you do when you have multiple individuals? How do you work this out? What are other ways in which people study behavior or monitor behavior? Any ideas? With camera, correct. So people use a video camera so that they can record videos of particular behaviors that are happening. And if you have a stationary camera fixed at a point with multiple individuals in it, you capture all their activities, and then you note down behavioral correlates for a particular amount of time for each of the individuals. So yeah, great. So I think all of you have an idea of how to create an ethogram. It might be good if you also do read up some papers on how behaviors have been studied on organisms. So yeah, I think this is the last question for the day. Does anyone have any questions with anything of what was covered, or from the course up till now, till week 3? Are you enjoying the course? Are you enjoying these tutorial sessions? Is it helpful? Is it useful? Is it new information? Is it the same as information? Yes, the exam can be given once in a year, but it only happens in this semester. So at the end of the semester, of this fall semester, at the end of the course, you can give the exam. Yes, it's not offered in the January. This course is not offered in Jan. It's offered in this part. All right, if there are no more questions, thanks for joining in, and I will catch you next week. Last day for registration, August 18th. I'm not actually sure. Does anyone know about this? Not sure what is the deadline for exam registration. If you can post this on the discussion group, it will be great. Yes, you should appear for the exam in this October only. That is correct. Yeah. Yes. Okay, 18th. Yes. So by 18th, you need to register and appear for the exam in October after the course ends. All right. Yeah. Thanks everyone for joining, and we shall meet on next Tuesday for the course content and discuss course content from week 4. All right. Bye everyone.